Welcome to casting the Goonies doubloon. We're starting with a 3D printed pattern and turning it into a bronze coin. Start by laying out the pattern and the molds. Gotta get everything aligned so the edges don't touch. We'll add some talcum powder as a release agent for the greensand. We're using homemade greensand, which is a mix of bentonite clay and 180 mesh olivine sand. I'm going to start sifting the sand in on the top half of the mold. I'm going to pack it in with a piece of square steel. Scrape this top flash. Put the top half of the mold on. Get everything aligned. I really like using this flour sifter, and instead of using the riddle, it's a lot less work. Pull the mold apart. We're going to cut our channel in on both halves of the mold for our molten bronze to flow down into. I like to add a couple vents using a piece of TIG wire. Tapping on the pattern helps release it from the sand. We clamp these together, otherwise the bronze will push them apart and dump your molten metal everywhere. It's been a while since I used this furnace. I'm going to fire it up for just a few seconds, let it get warm just to drive off any moisture that might be present. Forgot to put in the cardboard. We're going to weigh up the mix. We're going for 10% aluminum bronze, and I'm going to go 10 parts of copper to 1 part of aluminum. Trying to get the copper up to about 1,000 grams makes the math easy. That's close enough. Now we're adding in our 100 grams of aluminum. And that should do the trick. I want to make sure it's not super hot before I stick my hand down in there with the metal. This is the first crucible I ever bought. It's been through a lot of melts, and this is probably its last one. I've been only using it for really small pours of about 1 kilogram lately. put all the hot items down so that they're not contacting the gravel and moisture in. It's important to preheat all your tools. Steel will suck moisture out of the air and can flash when you touch it to a red hot crucible. I built all these out of scrap flat bar. Just bent them up in the vise and welded them together. Cold out, so I'm going to try and preheat the mold a little bit. It's kind of a precarious spot, but it seems to want to sit there. Starting to see some molten copper in the bottom of the crucible. It takes about 15 minutes or so to melt a load of copper down. Got this furnace off of Vivor. It's the double burner 12 kilogram furnace. It's been pretty good. We did some upgrades, rigidizer, satinite lining, and then I built this chimney out of castable refractory so that it doesn't warp the lid as it's heating up. Goes that mold. Almost caught it. Doesn't seem to have damaged it though. Now we got a nice puddle of molten copper in the bottom. I'm going to add in the aluminum. It's a good idea to push it under the surface to try and keep the oxides down. This wire didn't want to go down. Scrape off some of the oxide layer. That chunk of aluminum wire was not very clean. Probably would have been better to use a different piece of aluminum. Hoping that little bit of tin will help fluidize the bronze a little bit. And this is the secret sauce. This is phosphor copper brazing rod. The phosphor, even in tiny amounts, really helps fluidize the copper. Scrape some more dross off. We're going to very gently pick this crucible up. that she's seen some better days. You can see chunks hanging off the side there. And we want to make sure we pour this all the way to the rim so that the shrink just happens in the sprue. And at this point I realized that I did not preheat my ingot molds. So back into the furnace she goes for a minute. These are just 1 kilogram graphite ingot molds. It's a 6 kilogram crucible. I usually like to get the cast out of the mold pretty quickly so we don't drive off all the moisture out of the green sand. Save some time mulling. And you always want to drop your cast a couple times. Make sure it's good and dirty. This looks like it came out really well. Minor bit of flashing. You can see one of the vents started to flow. And here's one of those ingots. Also known as Nordic gold, and it really does look like gold. Yeah, it wouldn't be a casting video on YouTube without dunking it in a bucket of water to see the steam. And of course, drop your cast again. I attempted to use a hacksaw to cut the sprue off. Wasn't making much progress, so I grabbed a different hacksaw, which also didn't look like that. But the Portaband took quick work of it. Bench grinder to clean up the flashing on the edges and remove any misalignment. It does leave a rather rough edge though. Grinder left rather rough edges, so we're going to just use some fine files to clean it up and smooth off all the burrs. We got the edges all cleaned up, and we're going to use a variety of small files to clean up the holes that line up with the landmarks in the movie. File small enough to fit in this groove, so I used the hacksaw to clean out a little bit of flashing. Up. A little bit of a burr in the corner there. cheap nylon abrasive wheel we got it off Amazon. It started off as an 8-inch wheel and now it's down to about 3 inches. About time for a new one. Aluminum bronze is extremely resistant to corrosion. I would stick this in an acid vapor bath. I'm going to try doing some stain to darken up the center, give a little more contrast to the high spots. Force cure that stain using a heat gun. You could just let this sit and dry for a few days, but I'm sometimes kind of impatient. This is another doubloon that I cast out of solid copper. It spent a few days in the acid vapor, giving a nice coating of verdigris, and then I gave it a little bit of beeswax to seal the verdigris, otherwise it falls off pretty easily. I'm just going to melt a little bit of this leftover verdigris and beeswax combo into this new bronze coin. Make it look a little more aged. This is a really fine 320 grit sandpaper. Just rubbing it over the high spots gives us a nice clean bright letters. The stain darkens the background nicely. This is my treasure trove of ingots and doubloons.